Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Artists with Anxiety. I am Ellie Asher. You've hopefully seen me from the first season, and we're finally back after a very long hiatus due to COVID and taking care of my mental health. So I thought we'd dive right back in with another awesome guest. So, Maggie, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody, and thank you for having me on the show. My name's Maggie Colwell. I am a board-certified art therapist living in Columbus, Ohio. I have a private practice where I see adults individually for art therapy, and I also do dream analysis.
So, what is your business called?
It's called Chiron Art Therapy.
So, tell me about Chiron Art Therapy then. Like, how did you come to build this practice?
Well, art therapy was not my first career. I did 15 years in insurance risk management after I had gotten my undergrad in fine art. So that is not something I recommend for creatives. That was not a good career match for me. But it's one of those things that it paid well. So I got stuck for a while.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. But it really came down to I wanted to do something creative and I wanted to help people. So art therapy seemed like kind of a perfect balance for that. So I got my graduate degree in 2018 and knew at that point that my long-term goal was to be in private practice so that I could really work with people that wanted help and wanted to get better and were ready to really put the time and the effort in to long-term healing. I feel like a lot of the mental health system is based on short-term crisis rather than long-term healing. So that was something that I really wanted to be able to engage with people.
That's awesome. So what kind of a creative are you yourself? Or do you sing? Are you an actor, painter, crafter? What kind of creative are you?
I do some writing, but mainly I do collage and watercolor.
Oh, wow, that's really cool.
Painting. Yep.
I would love to see some of your work sometime. So if you have links, please forward those to me and I can share if you're willing.
Sure. I have an Etsy account, so.
Yes, awesome. So what does a typical session look like as far as art therapy is concerned?
Well, it really depends on the person and it really depends on what they're looking for. Some of my people, they come to me specifically because they don't want to do talk therapy. They've kind of gone through the talk therapy shtick and they want to have a different way to relieve their anxiety because talking about it makes it worse.
Mm-hmm.
So for them, we really focus on art making in session, and they are getting their stress relief and their personal insight from the art process. Other people are really more into kind of like understanding their internal processes and like their symbolic journey. So we may be doing like more talking in session where we're talking about artwork that they've worked on in between sessions. So it's really varied based on the person. For some people, they don't consider themselves artistic, which I think is a myth. I feel like creativity is kind of one of the metrics of health and wellness in general, just like pain or flexibility or strength, that really healthy people also have a creative outlet of some sort. So I feel like anybody can do art therapy. And for those people, the art itself and the resistance against the art is a big hurdle of the therapy of being comfortable with getting outside of your comfort zone and being able to push through anxiety or push through fear to be able to say, okay, I'm going to try this. And then seeing what comes up through that process to be able to work on what's going on with their lives. So.
Oh, wow. I love that. That's really cool. So again, answer only what you're willing to or as much or as little as you want. But do you yourself have some struggles with mental health and wellness?
Sure. And I would say that most mental health professionals have a personal reason that they get into this field as well. Um, I have had a history of some trauma and some anxiety and depression. And at this point, I've gotten to a place where I did 5 years of Jungian analysis, and really got to a place where, you know, don't need medication anymore. And I've kind of ended my own therapy for right now. Um, and when I have anxiety, it's something for me to look at and kind of learn from as okay, what's going on here? Like, is this my past rearing its ugly head? Or is this like trying to tell me something that maybe I'm going into the wrong path? So for me, it's kind of turned into this thing of, when I don't have enough energy and I'm feeling depressed, it's like I'm kind of like cutting myself off from something that I need to be able to kind of refill that well. And the anxiety is sometimes telling me, you're really fighting against yourself right here rather than staying in your zone of genius or listening to your intuition. And my question to myself is, okay, how deeply are you willing to trust your intuition to take you in the direction you need to go in? And that's more like using awareness of my energy levels and my moods as a tool and as an ally, rather than as something that like is too big and it's like running me over or keeping me from doing the things I want to. So it's not debilitating anymore. It's something that I look at as a tool rather than something that I'm looking at as something's wrong. If that makes sense.
That's really cool. And I feel like I'm saying that a lot. Oh my goodness. But so, and kind of following that, how do you still create in your free time? Because you said you have an Etsy. How do you still find the time to, or find the energy to be creative when you're feeling down? Like, what kind of steps do you take?
We're kind of taught in art therapy school to, when you're feeling something that you don't know how to put words in, or it's making you uncomfortable, to turn to the art as a way to process through it. And for me, sometimes I can be feeling something that's kind of a complex emotion, that as I do some art and kind of just throw stuff on a page or cut things out and paste it together, I start to have more conscious awareness of what's actually going on. And a lot of times the art can also be a container so that it's holding that emotion for you, just like the same concept as journaling, where you get it out of your head and then it's no longer racing around in your head. It's in the journal and you can close the journal.
Yeah.
So you can kind of like let the art hold it and say, okay, it's not running amok inside me anymore. So it's something that I turn to when I really need it. As far as time, that's one of the reasons why I went into private practice, because I have a lot more control over when I work, how much I work, to be able to say, okay, I need a couple hours, that's after the sun comes up and I don't have to like wake up at 5 o'clock to have any me time. Like if you're racing to a job, like then you don't have that space in the morning. So for me, it was, I need space in the morning to be able to do my journaling and meditation, to be able to take care of me. And then on Friday, I have time for art. So it's like, nope, you can't see clients on Friday afternoon, you do art. So
I love that. Do you keep like does that allow you to keep like a schedule then?
Sure. It's like, I don't necessarily have like daily practices. I have almost daily practices. I'm trying to be compassionate with myself, because when you say I'm going to do this every day, it's like you're destined to have something come up.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So it's a mostly daily practice or a weekly practice where I'm saying, okay, this is a huge priority to me, because as an art therapist, I need to be engaging with my own art. And I really find that my art, since I'm making my money through art therapy, and I'm not dependent on my art to be commercialized and marketable necessarily, it can be a spiritual practice for me, and like kind of a conversation with my soul as I go through life. It kind of takes some of the pressure off.
I love that. And I love that the thing you said about like letting the art hold it was really cool. Um, I mean, obviously that's going to be a pattern with a lot of creatives, that that's going to be their outlet, but the whole purpose of art therapy is that is the purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just like, oh, I love drawing, so I draw whenever, like or a lot of artists that they, like you said, they try to sell commercial artwork, which is fine. That's awesome if you can do that. But I think that's awesome that you know your limits and you know your boundaries. So I really, really like that. So can you tell me about a time that you had to kind of fight to be creative, or it wasn't really a fight, but like what was the result of all that?
Well, like I said, when I was in insurance, that was not a good use of my time and energy, and being creative was difficult during that time. I would really call it a kind of a creative depression,
Mm-hmm.
because I was spending all my time and energy in like a very analytical mode, like counting numbers and very concrete in a way that did not feed intuitive art making. So I had to get to a point where I was like, this is not good for me. Yeah, it's good for my bank account. Yeah, it's like a reputable career. But on a deep spiritual level, doing insurance was not a good path for me. So I had to have one that was creative to be able to kind of affirm what I needed to be doing in the world. And so I kind of like said, okay, what do I need to do to be able to not sell out with my art and like make something that's like pretty? Because like a lot of times my art isn't necessarily pretty. I don't think art has to be pretty, but that's
right.
In general, if you're just trying to sell, like people want something to put on their over their couch.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that wasn't going to do it either. So I had to balance the needs of the world and, needing things like health insurance. And, looking at my long term of saying, I want to be able to stay healthy and have health insurance and, retirement planning, what
like is that? Not for our generation. No.
I mean, just the whole starving artist thing just wasn't going to work for me.
Right.
So I had to be able to say, okay, how do I balance what I need to do in the world to take care of the basics and feel secure, as well as also attend to this spiritual calling of being a creative person. So, and that was it. I was like, okay, in my mid 30s, I'm going back to grad school. And I had people who are like, it's too late for this. What are you doing? Like, why are you throwing your career away? Like all sorts of things. And I was like, I have to do this.
Because you're not happy. That's the whole, like,
right.
That should be like a duh kind of.
But people get stuck.
Yeah, absolutely.
You get stuck in what you're supposed to be doing, or you have responsibilities to your family, realities of the world of saying, but I have to take care of all this other stuff that I don't have time to say, okay, what's my calling?
Yeah.
But it became to a point where I needed it so badly, there was no turning back.
I love that.
There was times, during the program on graduate school is hard. Where, some of my classmates would say, I don't know if I can keep doing this. And I was always like, I can't go back. Like what that means if I say, okay, I give up on school, like I can't do this to myself. Like giving up is not an option. So it's like I'm getting through school, whether anybody likes it or not, because I have to do this. And I think that's kind of like what I like doing with my clients too, is clients who are like, okay, what I've been doing doesn't work. Like everything inside of me is fighting against it and saying, this is wrong. Like, I can't be doing this. And to be able to say, okay, I'm turning away from convention, or I'm turning away from, you know, like my 9 to 5 and security and blah, 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 which is really all, you know, an illusion anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And saying, okay, like, I am at a turning point and I can't go back. What I've been doing doesn't work. So it's time to go figure out something deeper that may be more complicated, but it'll be more satisfying.
How do your any of your clients feel after a session normally? Is it like relief? Is there still like more to be done? How do they feel when they leave a session with you?
It depends on what we're working on. You know, if they show up to the session like, you know, like, I'm really stressed today. Okay, like, then the main focus of the session will be to do some biofeedback type of exercises where they're telling their body to calm back down and be able to kind of soothe. So to be able to say, okay, you know, like, we just have to take care of the anxiety today so that I feel better. However, if we're talking about behavioral patterns that they're not happy with, that's getting in their way, or, you know, they're doing something that's kind of self-destructive, it's also my job to say something and to challenge them on, you know, you're not looking at this pattern, but this happened a couple months ago and now it's happening here, and there's a connection here that you're not seeing. So we need to make some changes. So it is possible in therapy to leave a session and be upset.
Right.
Because to be able to have that awareness of something, of, you know, something that's going wrong that you have to change, like, that's hard. So, you know, I can't always say that every single session makes somebody feel better.
Right.
But then again, half a bottle of wine makes you feel better. But, but is it fixing anything? No, it's just covering it up. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Sometimes therapy can make it harder before it makes it easier. Just like going to surgery. Sometimes you have to have surgery because something's really, really wrong. And you feel worse right after the surgery, and then you have to heal for a little while. So, you know, that's a possibility too.
I like that. It's not a linear path either way. That's really cool. So I used to ask these questions all the time in like the first season about like a self-care routine, but looking back on it, it's not like, oh, take a bubble bath and all your problems are solved, obviously. Because there are institutional pressures that affect everybody's mood and emotional well-being. So I asked, this was like a little asterisk. What is your self-care routine?
I would say a big thing for me is that self-compassion I was talking about, because given my own devices, I'm kind of like a regimented person. Like, I'm on time to things. I'm usually reliable. Like, I like schedules. And here I am working for myself, where any type of structure is actually self-imposed. So a lot of times I have to be like, okay, I'm going to bed early, or I am going to go work out even though I don't want to today. Or it means I have to tell this person that I have to stick to this boundary, and I'm sorry, it's not what they want to hear. So sometimes self-care is about being committed to my personal boundaries so that I can do what's best for me and try to be a person with integrity. You know, sometimes it's, you know, like, I have to get things done. I think self-care kind of like originated from people being able to manage their symptoms in between doctor's visits, so that they knew when they needed to go see the doctor again. And I think it's turned into this like treat yourself thing, where it's like, buy that thing you want, eat that piece of cake, take a bubble bath. And it's like I was saying with the wine, like, are you, how did I put it? Because that was something I bring up self-care a lot on my Instagram. Are you tuning in or checking out?
And I like that.
That's something I kind of ask myself with my self-care. It's like, am I doing this because I want to fog eat, or I just want to like check out for a while because I don't want to deal with something? Or am I taking myself to the studio to go make some ugly art to figure out what's actually going on?
Mm-hmm.
Am I taking myself back to therapy? Am I going to supervision? Like, sometimes it's the hard stuff.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. That's because I used to be on that same like treat yourself kind of thing. And there's a time and a place for that. Sometimes if I'm really feeling stressed out and I'm like, no, I have to do this one thing. I'm like, no, I can sit and I can listen to a podcast for a minute and chill and then get back to what I was supposed to be doing. But I want to make sure that there's supposed to be a little asterisk there, knowing that there's, not completely tuning out everything, that you're not addressing the actual issues, but just being able to take a little break is still important. So I love that you clarified that difference. So that was awesome. So why don't you tell everyone where we can find more about you? You said you had an Instagram and an Etsy, and I think you have a website.
Yes. So my website is columbusarttherapy.com. My Instagram is Chiron Art Therapy. That's CHIRON Art Therapy. I'm not sure what my Etsy address is, so I'm gonna have to look that one up.
I can include links later on, so don't worry about it.
Okay. And the other place to find me is I run a Facebook group called Art is Alchemy.
Ooh.
So
can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have I post articles. We talk about self-care. We talk about creativity as a spiritual path. And it's like all religions or non-religions are welcome. It's a very inclusive space where I've had, people talk about some of the things that they struggle with. It doesn't go into me giving mental health advice. I kind of leave that for my practice because that's kind of out of scope for the Facebook arena.
Right.
And but we talk about all sorts of things, and I offer some open studios. So that's a space that people can virtually go hang out with other artists, and it's kind of holding you accountable to do your art. So yeah, it's just getting started, and I'll probably be offering classes and meditations and things like that as well.
Oh, that's really cool. I was like, now I'm gonna have to go find it because I want to join. That sounds like a blast.
Yeah.
I feel like I had one more question and I totally forgot what it was. It's gone. So just as a reminder for everybody that I am not the mental health professional here, Maggie is. So if you are looking for help in anything like that, I personally encourage people to talk to friends and family, or a trusted doctor or a psychiatrist if you need medication. There's no shame in that. But making sure that you're taking care of yourself, whether that's going to see an art therapist like Maggie, or anybody that you feel comfortable with, in all honesty, as long as that person is a trusted person, and just making sure that you're taking care of yourself each time, or any time really. So that's my little disclaimer, but I appreciate everyone watching and listening, and I can't wait for the next episode. So stick around. Bye.